The normally silent and introverted prisoner suddenly came alive, his eyes shining, his voice stronger, his speech authoritative. He spoke very intimately, professionally, and convincingly, developing on Father Arseny's thought about the influence of music on the soul. One of the prisoners who was standing nearby looked at the man carefully and suddenly exclaimed, "Wait a minute, but I know you. You are a pianist," and he named a very famous musician. The musician shivered and said a little shyly, "If only you knew how I miss music. Yes, if only you knew. With music I could survive even here." Somebody asked the silly question, "What are you here for?" The musician answered, "A friend testified a lie against me, but actually I'm here for the same reason we all are here." He spoke and stepped away, returning to his bunk. After this conversation, his sadness and lack of interest in anything became even more pronounced. His eyes were empty, and he only answered if called several times. We could see that the man had lost interest in the outside world, and that was equal to a death warrant. A month went by. The musician grew weaker and weaker, went to work with great difficulty, couldn't fulfill his assigned work, and therefore received less and less to eat. Father Arseny tried to talk to him, tried to help him, but all his efforts were unsuccessful. The musician would just give any answer, whether it pertained to the question or not, and would then walk away. "The man is dying without music. What can we get for him to be able to play?" One of the criminals who, like Father Arseny, said, "I saw a broken down guitar in the red corner." Footnote: a red corner was a recreation and reading room set up for political purposes in Soviet institutions. End footnote. We will try to steal it. In this special camp there was a red corner where nothing educational or recreational ever took place, but there were several dozen books there which no one was allowed to touch, and a bookcase in which there was a broken down guitar. The red corner was always kept locked, but probably in camp reports to the authorities it was listed as a crucial tool in the political development of the Czechs. It will never be known how, but the criminals managed to get a hold of the guitar and bring it to the barracks. The sounding board had cracked. It had only 5 of its 7 strings. The finish was in poor shape. The guitar looked miserable. Everybody knew that the guitar wouldn't last long in the barracks. It would be found at the first inspection and be taken away. Still, it was a very welcome diversion, an event. Somebody glued the sounding board and cleaned up the finish. The criminals hid the guitar for 2 days while the glue was drying. On the 3rd day, after both roll calls and inspections, they put it on the bunk of the musician while he was busy on the other side of the barracks. The musician came back to his bunk, noticing nothing until his hand touched the strings. He jumped up, grabbed the guitar, looked around, not knowing what to think, and started tuning it. At first, the strings wouldn't give out a decent sound, so that they gave the impression of being dead, but soon they became taut, and the musician started playing. In 5 or 6 groups, the criminals were playing cards using homemade cards. Others were playing dominoes, and still others were throwing dice. They were swearing angrily. Suddenly the barracks was full of sound. People were caught by the sound. The swearing stopped. The cards were put down. Something immeasurably big, something dear, a little sad but unusually close to each man's heart had penetrated the barracks. In these sounds they saw the familiar places, fields covered with grass, their wives, their mothers, their children, their friends, all lost forever. Everything remaining in these people that was bright and good was stirred and came to stand by them. The rudeness and cruelty of camp life fled. The prisoners stood, lay or sat, very still, lit up by their past. What the musician was playing was unimportant. It might have been his own composition, but whatever it was, the guitar was singing and telling their past. We were listening and the music was flowing, light and pure. You could hear the clinging of icicles, water singing in a stream, calmly pouring at times and at other times passionately battling a stone in its way. The heart of the music was beating in our hearts. and gave us light in spite of the surrounding gloom. It gave us life and joy. The sound flowed, uniting that which otherwise could not have been united. It was among us, despite the fact that the dream that had enlivened us was immeasurably far away. A time came when the strings played more and more tragically. They began to weep, to moan, to protest quietly. With all this, the music cut people off from hateful reality. Suddenly we heard loud footsteps in the passage between the bunks. A tall man with dark black hair appeared, his face grimacing and covered with tears. He was one of the camp's infamous criminals, cruel and pitiless. "Stop the music, stop turning my soul inside out, stop or I'll kill you." The criminal took a step towards the musician with his fists raised. At this moment, another criminal who happened to be standing nearby grabbed the first one and threw him out into the passage. Later, his sobbing could be heard at the end of the barracks. The sound of the music told of the suffering, the unbearable grief, the despondency, the tracks, the camp. Your heart was tight in your chest, but all the sadness seemed to disappear progressively, and there came calm peacefulness. It seemed the man had found his way. The musician was telling his life in these sounds, but each listener heard his own life in them. The music stopped suddenly, and the musician remained silent for a while, motionless. Somebody said, "Sing for us." The musician raised his head and sang with a low, slightly hoarse but very expressive voice. He sang an old Russian song. "Why do you hang your heads, my friends? She doesn't love me anymore. So what? I am no longer dear to her, but I will love you, my friends." Everyone came alive and smiled. The voice of a musician wasn't the voice of a singer, but it was so warm and so expressive that he charmed all his listeners. He finished the song and played a waltz they all knew. He played it in a slow tempo. The familiarity of the piece somehow united them and made them feel very close to one another. They all went to their bunks in silence. The musician sat on his bunk. He was straight, calm, luminous, and held the guitar with the greatest of care. His big eyes looked into the darkness and expressed gratitude to all for this guitar. Father Arseny was sitting near me on his bunk. He was pensive and serious. He is a believer, a deeply believing man. He told us all about this in his music. The guitar lived in the barracks for 2 days. In the course of these 2 days, the musician was totally transformed. He became cheerful, he became alive, he became communicative. The criminals called him the performer and decided to protect him. The guitar was taken from him during a morning inspection. Somebody had denounced him. The musician was put in the punishment cell for 3 days. For a little while, the musician remained calm and even joyous, but then he faded again. About 3 weeks later, Father Arseny woke up because somebody was shaking him by the sleeve. "Please forgive me for waking you up. I know it is night, but I just have to talk to you. I know that you are a priest. I've wanted to talk to you for a long time, but I didn't dare. Thank you for the guitar. I know you initiated it. Hear me. I will be brief. Forgive me for waking you up." He was bent over Father Arseny, and his breathing was warm and nervous. He spoke very quickly. He wanted to spill all his thoughts. "My God, oh my God, I'm such a sinner," he repeated from time to time. It was clear that he had thought about everything he was saying for a long time and had suffered over it. His tears were pouring onto Father Arseny's hand. "My God, I know I am a sinner, but why did they take my music from me?" Father Arseny prayed for a long time with the musician. The musician prayed with him. 3 weeks later, at work, the musician's left hand was smashed. In another 2 weeks, he sent a note to Father Arseny from the hospital. The note was carried by a friend. The letter said, "Do not forget me in your prayers. Death is nearby. Pray to God for me." 2 steps to the side. I had known Father Arseny for a long time. A year was considered a long time in camp. We knew each other, saw each other rarely, but I heard people speak about him very often. I was drawn to him in 1953. In the summer, we had been temporarily transferred to build new barracks in the place where nobody had ever lived. We also had to build a mine shaft. We had to walk 40 kilometers to get there, not all that far. We had 3 days, 2 nights to get there, and quite a bit to carry. The sun was scorching, the mosquitoes attacked and entered any opening in your clothes. We were walking fully dressed. It was sultry and the air was heavy. Our hands and our face itched from mosquito bites and sweat. In the hot summer, treks could be more difficult than in the middle of winter with its freezing temperatures. We had to walk, our legs as heavy as lead, our loads getting heavier and heavier and cutting into our shoulders. Our clothing struck to our bodies, making any movement even more difficult. Each of us had only one wish, to lie down flat on the ground and never ever get up, whatever might happen as a result. Still, some unexplainable power made us all continue to walk, dragging our feet each yard a fight, walking like robots. Everyone was tired, the guards, the prisoners, the dogs. The road seemed endless in spite of the fact that many of us had already walked it several times. With each step we felt weaker, the file spread out, the ranks became irregular. Every so often you could hear orders shouted by the guards, "Close the ranks, don't spread out." But the order came from a tired man with a tired voice, a man who was hot and felt the weight of his weapon. He was tired from watching so many people move slowly in the heat. Our feet sank in the reddish leaves that covered the ground. The leaves from alders, aspens, and birches fell slowly from their branches, circled lazily above the heads of the prisoners and fell to the ground to be stepped on. Father Arseny was walking right next to me. I tripped several times and he helped me with the utmost care. 2 or 3 times I looked at him and wondered, why is he still walking? But there he was, walking straight, concentrating on something. You might think he didn't see anything. His lips were moving, and I knew he was praying. The road meandered along hills. The slopes on both sides were covered with fallen leaves which had been brought in by the wind. Sometimes there were a few bushes growing. Just in front of us a Tartar was walking. His face resembled that of an ascetic. His bag was empty. He wore rags and he was dirty. We knew he originally came from Kazan. He could not take the camp and was near his end. In the barracks, his bunk was very close to mine. Seeing that the man was hopeless, many of us tried to help him, but it was too late. It was useless. Now he was walking, stumbling constantly. His arms were jerking. He was swaying from side to side. When would it be time for a break? Sometimes somebody fell. The others would walk around him and the guards would make him get up by kicking him. The dogs were walking on their leashes and it seemed they didn't see anything. Their snouts were so close to the road. Everything was calm and quiet. No one talked. We heard no orders or threats, only the disconcerting rustle of our feet. Our feet hurt. Our heads hurt. Our bodies ached all over. I could only think about a rest. I was so tired that sometimes I couldn't even see the people in front of me. They would disappear and reappear in the dust. This is it. I have no more strength. I'm going to fall down. Suddenly I hear, "I'm off. I'm running." I immediately came to and saw the Tartar who had been walking in front of us running up the hill slowly because he didn't have the strength to run fast. The whole file of people was astir, awakened from their daze. The guards lifted their automatic weapons and started shooting. The bullets hit the ground and raised a small cloud of dust, but the man was still running. This kind of escape has a special name: escape to death. It happened when a man could bear it no longer, ran to be shot, not to have to live any longer. The guards understood about this kind of escape, but they didn't want to give in to a prisoner's desire. With the help of the dogs, they would overtake him, beat him, and force him to get back in the lines, only occasionally killing the man. It all depended on the lieutenant. The Tartar had great difficulty in climbing the hill. When the lieutenant and his assistant saw that he was losing strength, they shouted to unleash the dogs. The dogs would stop him. He would be beaten. The Zek would get a few additional years in camp, but he would live. Everybody was silent. They were moved to understand that the lieutenant wanted to save the man's life. Then suddenly we heard the sound of an automatic rifle. The soldier turned out to be a good shot. He hit the Tartar with his first shot. As he fell, one might think that he was trying to hold on to the bright blue sky. He stretched one arm toward the sun and fell head over heels down the embankment. The automatic rifle was still firing. The Tartar lay still, but everyone could see him. His face was destroyed. His clothing was covered with blood, but the man was still shooting. Tense and emotional, the file of Zex walked towards the guards. The lieutenant in charge fired a few shots over their heads and shouted, "All of you, fall to the ground." The men dropped to the road, which was covered with leaves. Above their heads they could hear another volley of shots, and the same voice, hoarse from straining so much, continued, "Down, flat on the ground," and he swore rudely. Everything was quiet, and you could hear the voice of the soldier saying, "Comrade Lieutenant, I got him like a sniper with my first shot," and you could hear that the soldier had a Tartar accent. At this moment you could hear a voice from the ranks, "You dog, you killed one of your own. You deserve death yourself." The Tartar soldier turned around and aimed his gun onto the Zeks, but the lieutenant shouted, "Ibrahimov, stop it." We were all flat on the ground, and I suddenly heard someone crying. I turned my head and see Father Arseny on his knees above all of us, flat on the ground. His face was wet with tears, and as he quietly sobs with his lips moving in a whisper. I hit him with the flat of my hand and tell him, "Lie down or they will shoot you." But he didn't move. Resting on his knees and looking somewhere far away, he whispered and made the sign of the cross. I pushed him a second time, but he didn't want to lie down. What can I do? He doesn't want to lie down. I can only hope that they will not shoot me. For some 10 or 15 minutes we could hear the guards running around and then someone dragging the body. Then we heard the order, "Up, stand in line, stay in order. If you take even one step to the side, I will shoot." We got up from the ground. We started walking. We noticed that the body of the man killed had been put away somewhere. There was still blood on the leaves. We walked on. The guards were fierce. We all knew that any attempted irregularity would be met with bullets. I look at Father Arseny. His eyes are wet. His face is serious and sad, very sad. But I can see that he is praying. I don't know why, but this made me angry. What a time to pray and to cry. I asked him, "So Streltsov, are you going to tell me that you have never seen anything like that?" "I have seen things like that, and not only this once. It is always horrible when an innocent man is killed. I see it and cannot help in any way." I answered him ironically, "Why didn't you call on your God so that he could help, or you could have cursed the killer? It would have been useless perhaps, but you could feel revenge." "What are you saying? Is it possible to curse anybody? God has saved many of us even now. God will punish the killer. The angel of death is already near him." "Oh Lord, I'm such a sinner," he said, and continued walking. He was very sad. The killing of the Tartar somehow relieved the tiredness of our bodies, and we walked faster, but no one said a word. One day later we came to our temporary assignment. We were to stay there about a month and work 15 to 18 hours a day. Our rations were even smaller than in our regular camp. Each day somebody died and was buried. The mosquitoes ate us alive. We were in such a state that people fell down dead while still holding their spades or axes. The guard would calmly walk over to the man who had fallen, order the next Zek to pick up his spade or axe and kick the fallen man. Sometimes the man would be able to stand up after a while, but most of the time he was put on a cart and shipped to a medic who would certify that he was dead and sign a paper. This was the end of this man's sojourn in camp and on this earth. I started to keep an eye on Streltsov. He had amazed me during the last trek. I could see that he was an exceptional man. He had been working like all the others for many years in the same camp. He was old and exhausted, but he was still alive. He hadn't died. He believed in something. He believed so hard that this was obviously the only reason he did not die, but lived.